Hello, this is a Steinway Model O grand piano that's 5 foot 10.5 inches long, made in 1906, and it's fully restored and just come onto the showroom floor, and we still have to do some refinement. I want to try and think through the refinement with you and show you what kind of things we think it needs doing. Just a quick look at the piano first of all. Well, it's immaculate on the outside. It looks like a new piano, and it's had the key tops changed, so these aren't the original ivories. Now it's a Hamburg Steinway, and just a quick look at the inside here. We've plenty of videos showing these if you want to see some more detail, but I want to focus in on the dampers here because we like the dampers to go right up as far as possible, and half wedge dampers. I've mentioned this before, but it gives much cleaner cut off when you want to play very much staccato. And it's had a new rest plank and so on, same as the other ones we've done in the past. Now, to help think it through, I want to give a quick comparison with some of these other pianos without making the video too long. There's other pianos that we have in stock. This is a Steinway Model O, an older one, 1896 I believe, and rosewood as you can see, with all the original casework. Though, in fact, as you can see, we put this desk on top of the other one. It was changed. It's been repolished, extremely well restored piano. There's another video about this. And a plain desk. This is the original type of desk. So if we repolish the whole piano, then we can fit that desk on to make the whole piano original. Now, there's a lot of refinements we want to make on this Steinway. I want to show you some of the most important ones. Now, the voicing of the hammers have been put on, obviously in the press, they're put on very hard and they need to be voiced down. So we'll look at that in a minute. But if you listen to the tone here, that's in the middle area. It's just about right, it's beautiful. But going further up, it's a bit on the hard side. If you listen to that one, for instance, it's a hard hammer and not really resounding enough. Well, they voiced that one already, so I'll show you that in a minute. That one still needs a bit more voicing. We've done that one, and that one you see is much softer and harder. So you can hear that F standing out quite strongly. Let's look at the tone on the other ones. Now, this other Steinway's been restored very, very well by a well-known restorer in the UK, extremely well actually, and it's had a chance to be played in as well. So when the hammers are played in, they actually sound their optimum after, let's say, 10 years of sort of normal playing. So obviously we can't replicate that, but if you buy a piano that's fully restored, then the hammers will sound better after 10 years than they do initially. We're hoping to get them to sound as good as we can. Same with a new piano really, it needs playing in. This Blüthner here, which says, I didn't say what this one was, this is a Blüthner style. It's got normal roller action and it's been fully restored by Blüthner's. Beautiful piano as well. And this again, it's been played in a bit, and the hammers are just as they should be, sounding really round, bringing out the full tone of the piano. This is the 48162 in stock, and the modern piano is shown up as not having such a deep tone as the older ones. Of course, it's very refined action, but then the older ones are refined action too if they're properly restored. The 1898 Steinway, actually that needs voicing slightly, that hammer. There's no end to voicing it, just want to get it more and more refined. And back to the one that we're focusing on. But that's a nice round sound. That still needs a bit of work, but again, it's a very pleasant sound. Another refinement is that the dampers are roughly regulated, but they're coming off far too early. And here's in the bass particularly noticeable because they're quite heavy dampers. The actual weight of the damper down, it's got weights in it, so it's quite heavy. It needs to be to dampen off well, but they're coming off far too early, so it feels heavy. If they were coming off a bit later, let's try it without the dampers. That feels really smooth and much lighter. Halfway would be about right, because by the time the hammer's got halfway, you don't notice the weight so much. It's overcome the inertia and starting to move. So halfway to the string is sort of normal. If you want a heavy feel, then obviously you can get the dampers coming off earlier. Conversely, a light feel for later, but they can't be too late, otherwise they don't work properly. If we look at the other Steinway, then we can see they're halfway, go about halfway to the string. I'm sorry you can't see too well that, but I'm trying to illustrate. They travel further and come off about halfway, and then that just feels right. There's plenty of other refinements we're going to make, but it's basically set up roughly right. The key dip's about 11mm, which is exactly as we like it. Slightly deeper than Steinway's 10.5. Well, maybe it is. It's between the two, but we're getting a bit finicky there. I want to see if you can see these two hammers here. This is B and C. I've set C as we'd like it to be, and B is, so if we press them down, you can see C sets off slightly later, and also the drop screw, if we see where the drop screw is, there again, slightly later, so we can get a bit more refinement. You might not think that's very important, but musicians do appreciate be able to play. It helps you to be able to play softly if it's really refined. But what I want to really focus on is the voicing of the hammers. So I just want to show you how I've voiced a couple of them here, and there's still going to be some refinement, but there's quite a lot of voicing to do in the top treble here. Now this is trial voicing in the piano. This will go on the bench, and it's much faster to voice on the bench, but this is how I do it. If you're a technician, I'm sure you got your own way and probably think mine is not a good way of doing it, so we're all different, aren't we? Well, let's try and learn from each other. Please comment underneath. This is a bit wide for one hammer, but I like using this Renner and Abel nail file basically, or toenail file. Losing chiropody, I think. But I get these from the chemist, and they last and last, and they don't leave any residue. Anyway, the middle one here is the one I'm voicing, and basically the problem is that when hammers are put on in the press, they're usually not pointed enough, and you'll find Steinways themselves do a lot of voicing to get them quite pointed, usually. Although if you talk to top voicing experts, I talk with the Bösendorfer factory, the man who finishes them off, and he says that each set of hammers is different, whether they're Abel or Renner, and he treats each set differently, which is kind of like mind-boggling. But anyway, I don't claim to know anything like what he knows, so it's good to pick people's brains like that. Anyway, the felts are, sorry, the fibres are pulled across the top. You can just about see the fibres if we zero in a bit. You can see the fibres being pulled across there, and of course they're pulled as tight as possible. Then the voicer will first of all voice down the bottom end here to try and get a lot of bounce. I've got 2 needles left in my, so that is very well voiced already. That needles go right in, but further up they obviously don't. Ideally, if you get the right sound without going too far up, you're breaking up the fibres. That's the idea. Breaking up the fibres gives the piano hammer more bounce, which is what you want, and then it'll bring out the harmonics nicely. So obviously go up further and further to the shoulders testing, and when you get the right sound you don't need to go any further up. Each hammer is different, as we just heard. Each set of hammers is different, so there we go. It's like learning to tune pianos, really. It's very, very involved, and I'm still learning always. So anyway, so this middle one, it did sound very harsh. I'll show you some harsh ones later on. But so voicing it, making it more pointed, deciding where the strike point, you might want to alter the strike point very slightly, but generally you're going to voice so that it's even on both sides, and then I smooth mine off like this. This is for trial voicing, by the way. Rather on the bench it'll obviously be done much quicker, and this is quite a lengthy process. I'm holding this hammer between the others so that we don't damage the hinge, and again, if you're a technician you might have your own way of doing this, but that's quite a common way. And also it means that when I voice it, it's not going to be voiced at a slope, which is really, really, really important, because otherwise if it doesn't hit all 3 strings exactly the same time, you might as well not voice, because you'll make it worse. But like this, it helps to hold it so that we can check afterwards if it does hit all 3 strings. I won't make a very long video here, but hopefully this provokes a bit of discussion, which is what I need, because I need to learn like everyone else does. We're all learning as we go along. So voicing both sides, this is backhand voicing, as it were, much more difficult to do. And then voicing this side, and as I say, we want to make more of a point. You might not notice much difference between this hammer and that hammer, but I can tell you the sound is quite different, and we'll try and hear that on the video. So I'm not sure if this is going to come out on the video, but that's D, which is quite hard, and this is C, which is halfway there, so that B's alright. Down here it's not so bad anyway, but we will do a lot of refined voicing here. I don't think you're going to pick this up on the video very well. And that A that the effect of it when you've done it all is noticeable. When there's just a couple of hammers, sometimes it doesn't notice so much. That definitely sounds harder, but to me it does here, and I'm not quite sure if the sound quality is good enough on the video, so sorry about that, but it's just an attempt to show you the kind of voicing that needs doing on the piano. So that's a look at this fully restored Steinway that's just come onto the showroom floor, and there's quite a lot of refinement still to do, but the piano is beautiful, as it's had all the parts of the Steinway should have. You might have noticed the full action replacement. There's a sticky note there that we also need to sort out. So lots of refinements to make on the piano, particularly the voicing. Now up there you see it's a bit weak. As you make the hammers pointed, it'll be much less weak, and we'll get the right voicing up there. And as I say, once the piano reaches optimum after perhaps 10 years of playing in, now we can't replicate that with a new piano or fully restored piano, obviously. But that's something to look forward to. It already does sound excellent, and it does feel a bit heavy in the bass because of the dampers coming off too early. So there are several other things to do which I haven't mentioned on the video. So a piano that's finished but not finished, and we need to do quite a bit more work. But round there, voicing's lovely. Very warm bass, as you'd expect. Feels heavy as soon as I get down to there. Really sings. Thank you very much for listening.